The rain drummed relentlessly against the dense canopy of the jungle, a symphony of droplets that masked the sounds of life below. It was a wild, untamed land, where towering trees stretched skyward, their roots curling over moss-covered stones. Vines twisted like serpents, and the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and blossoms unseen. Deep within this verdant maze, a figure lay crumpled against the trunk of a massive tree. Her skin shimmered faintly, an iridescent hue that seemed to drink in the scant light filtering through the leaves. She was no ordinary being. Her elongated limbs, silver-tinted hair, and radiant eyes betrayed her alien origin. She was a princess, a ruler once destined to ascend the throne of her people. Now, she was a castaway. Her breathing was shallow, each exhalation visible in the cool, humid air. Her once ornate garments were tattered, clinging to her frame in shreds. A thin, golden circlet, a sign of her royal blood, hung loosely on her head, now tarnished by the elements. They had betrayed her. The faces of her counselors, the ones who had sworn fealty to her lineage, flickered in her memory. Fearful whispers had turned to shouts, accusations hurled with venom. She was too young, too idealistic. Her plans for unity with other species were dangerous, they had said. When the coup came, it was swift. A small ship, piloted by those she once trusted, had taken her far from her crystalline palace and hurled her into the unknown. The dense jungle had been her prison ever since. Her senses were dulled, her strength nearly spent. Hunger gnawed at her insides, and though the jungle teemed with life, nothing resembled the sustenance she knew. Her people were not meant for such harsh conditions. She had resigned herself to this cruel fate when a sudden sound broke through the rhythm of the rain. A faint crunch of boots on wet leaves. Her heart fluttered weakly, torn between hope and dread. She tried to lift her head but could not summon the strength. The sound drew closer, and then she saw him. The man was tall and rugged, his face framed by a dark beard flecked with streaks of gray. His clothes, though soaked, were sturdy and practical, marked by patches and signs of countless repairs. He carried a pack slung over one shoulder and a machete strapped to his hip. His eyes, a deep green, scanned the area with practiced precision. When they fell upon her, they widened in astonishment. For a moment, he froze. She could see the gears turning in his mind, calculating whether she was a threat or a mirage conjured by the jungle's madness. Then, cautiously, he approached. "You're not a human," he murmured, his voice low and tinged with wonder. He knelt beside her, his calloused hands hovering uncertainly above her fragile form. She tried to speak, but her throat produced only a faint, rasping sound. He reached into his pack, producing a canteen, and gently tilted it to her lips. The water, though unfamiliar in taste, revived her slightly. "Easy now," he said, his tone softening. "Let's get you out of here." With surprising gentleness, he lifted her into his arms. She was light, almost unnaturally so, and he marveled at the faint luminescence of her skin. As he carried her through the jungle, his mind raced with questions. Who was she? How had she ended up in such a hostile place? And most importantly, why had no one come for her? His name was Daniel. A former archaeologist turned explorer, he had ventured into the jungle searching for ancient ruins rumored to lie deep within its heart. The discovery of an alien princess had not been part of his plans. He set up camp in a sheltered clearing, carefully laying her on a makeshift bed of dry leaves and his spare clothing. Over the following days, he nursed her back to health. She regained enough strength to speak, though her voice was soft and melodic, like the chiming of distant bells. She introduced herself as Aurelia and explained her plight in halting English, aided by her species' innate gift for language acquisition. Daniel listened, his skepticism gradually giving way to awe and sympathy. Her story was like something out of the myths he had studied: betrayal, exile, and a noble heart striving for peace. He shared snippets of his own life, his disillusionment with human greed and destruction, and his yearning for something greater. As the days turned into weeks, they formed a bond. Aurelia's knowledge of the stars and her people's advanced technology fascinated Daniel, while his resilience and resourcefulness amazed her. She marveled at his ability to navigate the jungle, to find food and water where she saw only chaos. Together, they were an unlikely team, each learning from the other. But the jungle was not without its dangers. predators stalked the shadows, and storms tore through with little warning. On one such night, as the wind howled and rain lashed their fragile shelter, Aurelia revealed a fragment of her royal circlet. It contained a small but potent beacon, one that could summon a ship from her world. She hesitated to use it, fearing her people would find her and finish what they had started. Daniel took her hand, his gaze steady. "You have a choice," he said. "You can stay hidden forever, or you can face them. If you decide to fight for your future, I'll stand with you." Moved by his words, Aurelia activated the beacon. The following days were tense, filled with preparation and an unspoken understanding of the risks ahead. When the ship finally descended, sleek and menacing, it brought not only the soldiers of her people but also the confrontation she had long dreaded. The battle was swift but decisive. Aurelia, with Daniel at her side, confronted her betrayers. Her courage and Daniel's ingenuity turned the tide, and the soldiers who remained loyal to her family rallied to her cause. The traitors were captured, and the princess was restored to her rightful place. When the time came to return to her world, Aurelia faced a choice. Daniel had become more than an ally. He was a friend, perhaps even something more. She offered him a place in her court, a chance to explore the stars alongside her. But Daniel, ever the explorer, chose a different path. "The jungle taught me something," he said. "We all have our place in the universe. Yours is up there, leading your people. Mine is here, discovering its mysteries." As her ship ascended, Aurelia watched him grow smaller and smaller until he was no more than a speck in the vast greenery. Though their paths had diverged, their bond remained unbroken, a testament to the unlikely friendship forged in the heart of the jungle. Months passed since Aurelia left Earth, her return to her people marked by both celebration and trepidation. Her survival and defiance against those who betrayed her became a powerful story, galvanizing support among her people and rekindling their faith in her vision of unity. Yet, amid the triumph, her thoughts often wandered to Daniel and the wild jungle that had nearly claimed her life. Aurelia worked tirelessly to rebuild her fractured kingdom. The traitors were put on trial, and reforms swept through her council to ensure no one could seize power again. She reached out to neighboring civilizations, proposing alliances and trade agreements. Slowly, her dream of interstellar unity began to take shape. Still, something was missing. On quiet nights, when the weight of leadership pressed heavily on her, she would gaze at the stars and wonder if Daniel ever thought of her. She had offered him a place at her side, yet he had chosen the wilderness, the uncharted paths of Earth. His choice was one of freedom, but it left a void she couldn't ignore. Far below the canopy of Earth's jungle, Daniel had returned to his life of exploration. The dense forest was alive with mystery, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose with each discovery. Yet, despite his love for the wild, his thoughts often drifted to Aurelia. Her luminous skin, her melodic voice, and her unyielding determination haunted his dreams. He wondered if she was safe, if her people had accepted her back, or if she ever looked at the stars and remembered him. One day, as he ventured deeper into uncharted territory, Daniel stumbled upon an ancient stone obelisk. Its surface was etched with symbols he didn't recognize, yet they seemed eerily familiar. He traced his fingers over the carvings, the realization dawning that they bore similarities to Aurelia's language. His heart raced. Could this jungle, so distant from the stars, hold remnants of her people? He spent weeks studying the obelisk, meticulously cataloging every detail. As he delved deeper, he discovered other artifacts. Fragments of technology fused with stone, faintly glowing even after untold centuries. It was clear that an alien presence had once graced this place. But why had they come? And why had they left? Meanwhile, aboard her starship, Aurelia received an unexpected report. A remote monitoring drone station near Earth had detected unusual activity. When she reviewed the images, her heart skipped a beat. There, amidst the jungle's expanse, was Daniel, standing before an obelisk adorned with symbols of her ancestors. The discovery was shocking. Her people had visited Earth long ago, but the records of their presence had been lost to time. Curiosity burned within her. She had to return, not just to uncover the truth of her people's past, but to see Daniel again. When Aurelia's ship descended once more into the jungle, it was not in secrecy. This time, her vessel landed with grace, its hull gleaming under the filtered sunlight. Daniel was there, his machete in hand, staring at the alien craft with a mixture of surprise and anticipation. When she emerged, her silver hair catching the light, he broke into a rare smile. "You couldn't stay away, could you?" he said, his voice teasing but warm. Aurelia laughed softly, the sound like a melody carried by the wind. "It seems neither of us can," she replied. Together, they explored the ancient ruins, piecing together the story of her ancestors' journey to Earth. They learned of a small expedition sent centuries ago, a mission meant to study the planet's unique biodiversity. However, something had gone wrong, an accident or conflict, that forced them to leave and erase their traces. The obelisk and artifacts were all that remained of their fleeting presence. As they worked, their bond deepened. Aurelia admired Daniel's relentless curiosity and tenacity, while he was captivated by her wisdom and resilience. What began as a rekindled friendship grew into something more profound. Their differences, instead of dividing them, wove their lives together in ways neither had expected. When the time came for Aurelia to return to her kingdom, Daniel faced another choice. This time, the jungle no longer held him. He had discovered its greatest secret, one that connected him to a vast, star-spanning legacy. "I think I've explored enough of this world," he said, standing beside her as the ship prepared to leave. "Maybe it's time I saw what lies beyond it." Aurelia smiled, her radiant eyes shining with joy. "You'll find the stars are wilder than any jungle," she said. "But I think you'll feel right at home." As the ship rose into the heavens, carrying them both away, Daniel looked back at the receding canopy of Earth for the last time. A sense of peace washed over him. His journey, it seemed, was only just beginning. And for Aurelia, with Daniel by her side, the stars held not just a kingdom but a new chapter of hope and discovery. Together, they ventured into the unknown, their paths forever intertwined in a story that spanned the cosmos. Aurelia's starship hummed as it soared through the void, its sleek design cutting through the fabric of space like a bird through the wind. Inside, Daniel marveled at the alien architecture. Every surface glimmered with a faint bioluminescence, shifting colors to suit the mood of the room. He ran his fingers over the controls, intricate and delicate, feeling out of place yet awestruck by their elegance. Aurelia stood beside him, her expression softened by the quiet satisfaction of having him there. "It's overwhelming, isn't it?" she said, her voice light. He turned to her, a crooked smile playing on his lips. "A little. It's like stepping into one of those science fiction stories I grew up with, except this one's real." The ship's navigation system chimed softly, and Aurelia glanced at the floating holographic display. "We're approaching a major trade hub," she explained. "It'll be your first look at interstellar civilization." Daniel's heart quickened as they approached the massive structure looming ahead. The station was a city among the stars, a colossal ring spinning gently to simulate gravity. Its surface bristled with docking ports, glowing conduits, and flashing lights. Ships of all shapes and sizes drifted in and out like bees swarming a hive. As they docked, Aurelia led Daniel through the corridors, her presence commanding respect from every being they encountered. The inhabitants were a kaleidoscope of species: tall, insectoid creatures with crystalline wings, stout, fur-covered beings with glowing eyes, and even gaseous entities floating in containment spheres. Each one regarded Daniel with curiosity, some with suspicion. "They've never seen a human before," Aurelia whispered, sensing his unease. He nodded, his gaze flitting between the extraordinary beings. "I don't blame them. I'm feeling pretty out of my depth." As they walked, Aurelia stopped before a towering alien whose armor gleamed like liquid metal. The being bowed deeply, addressing her in a language Daniel couldn't understand. Aurelia responded in kind, her tone firm but gracious. When the exchange ended, she turned to Daniel. "That was one of the station's leaders," she explained. "They've granted us access to their archives. If my people's records exist anywhere, they'll be here." The archives were a labyrinth of holographic displays, shimmering like constellations in a sea of darkness. Aurelia worked swiftly, her hands gliding over the controls, summoning ancient records from deep within the database. Daniel stood beside her, trying to make sense of the alien script that floated in the air. After hours of searching, Aurelia froze. "I've found it," she murmured. The hologram expanded, displaying a fragmented log from a long-forgotten mission. The records detailed an exploratory fleet dispatched by her ancestors to study uncharted worlds. Earth, they discovered, was unique, a planet brimming with life unlike any they had encountered. But their mission had ended in disaster. A conflict had arisen, possibly with an early human tribe or another alien species. To protect the fledgling civilization, the expedition had fled, leaving behind only remnants. They didn't want to interfere with Earth's development, Aurelia said, her voice tinged with sadness. They believed humans needed to find their own path. Daniel stared at the log, the weight of history settling on him. They were right, he said softly. But it's strange to think your people had a hand in shaping our world, even if indirectly. Aurelia turned to him, her expression thoughtful. And now our paths have crossed again. Perhaps it was always meant to be. The discovery of her ancestors' mission gave Aurelia new insight into her people's legacy. She decided to honor their memory by forging alliances not just with advanced civilizations but also with emerging ones like Earth. Her vision for unity expanded, and with Daniel's perspective, she saw the importance of fostering mutual respect between all species, regardless of their level of advancement. For Daniel, life among the stars was an adventure unlike anything he'd imagined. He learned quickly, adapting to alien technology and customs. His natural curiosity and resilience made him an invaluable companion to Aurelia, and he became a bridge between her people and others who were wary of her vision. Years passed, and their partnership grew into something deeper. Together, they navigated political intrigues, brokered peace between warring factions, and faced threats that could have shattered entire systems. Aurelia's people, once fractured and distrustful, began to see her as the leader they needed. Her bond with Daniel became a symbol of her ideals, a union of worlds and cultures working together for a greater good. On one particularly quiet evening aboard her royal vessel, Aurelia and Daniel stood on the observation deck. The stars stretched out before them, endless and shimmering. "This is it, isn't it?" Daniel said, his voice filled with wonder. "The place where humanity belongs. Out here, among the stars." Aurelia reached out, taking his hand. "It's where we all belong, Daniel. Together." And so, their journey continued, a tale of love, unity, and the unyielding spirit of exploration, bound by the belief that even among the infinite expanse of the universe, connections forged in trust and hope could change the fate of worlds. The years following Aurelia and Daniel's partnership saw monumental changes ripple across the galaxy. Aurelia's vision of unity, once seen as idealistic and naive, began to take tangible shape. The Galactic Accord, a coalition of allied species, was formalized with Aurelia as its first ambassador. Her ability to bridge differences between civilizations was unparalleled, and Daniel's presence often tipped the scales in her favor, proving that even the most disparate species could find common ground. One of their greatest challenges came when a rogue faction from Aurelia's own people, still loyal to the old ways, began sabotaging her efforts. The faction, calling themselves the Guard, believed in isolationism and saw humans, and Daniel specifically, as a threat to their purity. The tensions came to a head on a distant mining colony, where the Guard launched an attack, hoping to destabilize a key alliance Aurelia had brokered with the Araxis, a race of insectoid traders. Aurelia and Daniel rushed to the colony, arriving amidst chaos. The colony's sky was ablaze with streaks of energy weapons, and the ground trembled with distant explosions. Aurelia, donning her regal combat armor, radiated both authority and determination. Daniel, armed with modified alien tech, stood beside her, his expression grim. "This isn't just about me," Daniel said, watching the battle unfold. "They're trying to tear everything we've built apart." "They won't succeed," Aurelia replied, her voice resolute. "Not while we stand together." The battle was fierce. Aurelia's tactical brilliance shone as she directed her loyal forces to outmaneuver the Guard. Daniel, though not a soldier, used his knowledge of terrain and improvisation to disrupt enemy supply lines and sabotage their equipment. In the thick of the fight, they worked seamlessly, their trust in each other unshakable. At the heart of the colony, they confronted the leader of the Guard, a stern-faced general named Thalrin, whose hatred for humans burned in his eyes. "You've betrayed your own kind, Aurelia," Thalrin snarled. "And for what?" "A fragile dream built on lies." "I've betrayed nothing," Aurelia countered, her voice steady. "I've chosen progress over fear." And I won't let you destroy that. Thalrin sneered, raising a weapon, but before he could fire, Daniel stepped forward, disarming him with a swift strike. You talk a lot about betrayal, Daniel said, pinning the general to the ground. But the real betrayal is clinging to the past when the future's right in front of you. With Thalrin captured, the Kireth Guard's forces faltered, and the battle ended in victory. The colony was saved, and the alliance with the Araxis was solidified. The triumph at the mining colony cemented Aurelia's leadership and silenced many of her critics. However, the ordeal also made her realize the depths of resistance she still faced. Despite their victory, she knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. Daniel, meanwhile, found himself grappling with his growing role in the galaxy. He had never sought the spotlight, yet his actions had made him a symbol of unity. He often wondered if he was truly ready for the responsibility that came with it. One evening, as they stood together on the balcony of Aurelia's palace, Daniel voiced his doubts. I'm just one man, he said, staring out at the stars. Sometimes I feel like I don't belong in all of this. Aurelia turned to him, her eyes glowing softly in the moonlight. You belong because you choose to. You've shown me, and everyone else, that it's possible to bridge worlds. That's something no one can take away from you. Her words steadied him, and as they stood there, side by side, he realized that his place was not just by her side but in the heart of the movement they had built together. As the Galactic Accord grew, Aurelia and Daniel continued to face new challenges. From uncharted territories brimming with ancient dangers to diplomatic disputes that tested their patience, each obstacle only strengthened their bond. Their love, forged in the crucible of survival and tested by the demands of leadership, became a beacon for others. They were no longer just a princess and an explorer. Together, they were a symbol of hope, a testament to what could be achieved when trust, courage, and compassion overcame fear and division. And so, their story became legend. From the densest jungles of Earth to the furthest reaches of the cosmos, Aurelia and Daniel's journey proved that even in the vastness of the universe, the connections we make can define our destiny and light the way for generations to come. Years passed, and the galaxy Aurelia and Daniel had dreamed of began to take form. The Galactic Accord flourished, with dozens of civilizations joining its ranks. The once fractured worlds, once divided by fear and mistrust, now worked together to share knowledge, trade resources, and solve problems that spanned light years. Their coalition became a beacon of unity in the stars, a testament to the vision that Aurelia and Daniel had fought so hard to protect. The challenges they faced never truly disappeared. New alliances required constant maintenance, and the occasional spark of rebellion or conflict reminded them that peace was a fragile thing. But with every hurdle, their resolve only deepened. Together, they had become a powerful team, a ruler with a heart for justice and an explorer with a knack for bridging divides. One of the most pivotal moments of their journey came when the Galactic Accord established its first shared capital on an artificial station called Harmony Prime. Aurelia was chosen unanimously as the Accord's first High Ambassador, a role that would allow her to guide the galaxy into its new era. The station was a marvel of engineering, a floating city designed by representatives of every species, its architecture a blend of countless cultures. Daniel stood beside her as the first session of the Galactic Assembly convened. Dignitaries from every corner of the galaxy filled the grand chamber, their languages blending into a harmonious hum of anticipation. As Aurelia stepped forward to address them, Daniel couldn't help but feel pride swell in his chest. She spoke with the eloquence and passion that had made her a beloved leader. Today, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall, we stand not as separate worlds, but as one galaxy. Together, we have proven that unity is stronger than fear, that hope can overcome hatred. Let this be the beginning of an age where no species stands alone. The chamber erupted into applause, and Daniel caught her eye. In that moment, they shared a silent acknowledgement of how far they had come, not just as leaders but as two individuals who had found something extraordinary in each other. Their love, once tempered by uncertainty, blossomed into a bond that transcended words. It was in the quiet moments, shared meals aboard their ship, stolen glances during tense negotiations, and laughter over stories of their past, that their connection deepened. For Aurelia, Daniel was her anchor, grounding her in the chaos of leadership. For Daniel, Aurelia was his compass, guiding him through a universe he could never have imagined. On a rare day of respite, they returned to the jungle where their story had begun. The obelisk that had first hinted at Aurelia's ancestors' presence still stood, now preserved as a monument. They walked together under the same towering canopy, the air thick with the scent of rain and life. "I never thought we'd be back here," Daniel said, his voice tinged with nostalgia. "Nor did I," Aurelia replied, her fingers brushing against the carvings on the obelisk. "But it feels right, doesn't it? To honor where we began." Daniel nodded, a soft smile on his face. "It's strange. This place tried to break us, but it also brought us together." They stood in silence for a while, listening to the jungle's symphony. Then, Daniel turned to her, his expression serious but warm. "You know, I think this galaxy's starting to feel like home." Aurelia's eyes glimmered with emotion. "It wouldn't be home without you." As the years rolled on, their influence only grew. Aurelia's reign as High Ambassador became the foundation for centuries of peace, and Daniel's stories of exploration inspired a new generation of pioneers. Together, they became a legend, their names spoken with reverence in every corner of the galaxy. In the twilight of their lives, they settled on a tranquil world on the Accord's edge, a place where the stars shone brightly and the air was always warm. Their home was modest but filled with relics of their adventures, artifacts from distant worlds, gifts from allies, and countless memories. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, they sat together on their veranda. The air was still, and the night sky stretched endlessly above them. Daniel reached for Aurelia's hand, his touch as steady and reassuring as ever. "You know," he said, his voice soft, "if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing." Aurelia smiled, her radiant eyes fixed on his. "Neither would I. You've given me more than I ever thought possible." As they watched the stars together, the universe seemed to hold its breath, as if honoring the lives they had lived. Their journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but it had also been filled with love, discovery, and triumph. And so, under the endless expanse of the cosmos, Aurelia and Daniel found their happy ending. Not as a princess and an explorer, but as two souls who had changed the galaxy together, forever entwined in the story of the stars.